As usual. Today, let's start with the Central African Republic, which has marked 64 years of independence, and they were celebrating this yesterday. What were the major reflections in the country amongst its people?
Well, yeah. So it's been 64 years since they gained independence. And it seems like these celebrations were marked by heavy security personnel. There were a lot of people that were concerned about the security of, in fact, even the president himself, because there was potential for an arrest and also disruptions. We have seen that since 2013, 14, the Central African Republic has been marked by civil war, and that escalated in 2018. Therefore, there's a lot of problems internally in terms of security. And so the president and the government have actually reached out to Russia and Rwanda to provide security to them. And so the Wagner Group, which is a mercenary group from Russia, is heavily involved in protecting the president himself and also the security of the nation. So it's marked by a lot of concerns about security and the heavy presence of security itself.
In terms of that, then, the promises and the reiteration of President Faustin Archange Twadera's statements for security in the country, what has the response been in terms of do the people of the CAR believe that security can return in the country after that 2013 civil war?
And like I said, this is against the backdrop of heavy security presence of foreigners or foreign mercenaries. Obviously, when you have foreign mercenaries roaming around the streets of the capital city, Bangui, or other places, people do not feel safe. People feel like there's a sense of insecurity. But since the civil war and up to now, at least these foreign entities from Rwanda and as well as from Russia have tried to maintain some sort of normalcy and peace. But the question is, how long does this go on for? Because you can't be a country, a sovereign state that relies on external forces or foreign entities to come and provide security for the country. So this is yet to be seen, but still, I think people are a bit skeptical about the security of the Central African Republic.
A parade was held for the commemorations yesterday. Who else was in attendance there besides CAR President?
We know that, like I said, there was tight security, and so we know that there are just a few hundred of people that were allowed to be anywhere close to the celebration because of security reasons that were cited.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't seem like there was a huge turnout from the public. It doesn't seem like this 64th anniversary of the independence was anything to go by in terms of success.
Okay, let's move to Cameroon now, Aaron. France has finally acknowledged its role in the struggle for freedom in that country. What forms part of their acknowledgement?
So we've seen that French President Macron, has actually issued a statement in which he has acknowledged that France was culpable in trying to do everything possible to derail or to stop Cameroon from gaining its independence. But also, he's gone a step further. He's also acknowledged that some of the freedom fighters who were killed at the hand of the French government were even named in this so-called apology that he has rendered to the Cameroonian government. And this comes in a letter that is addressed to Paul Biya, and this comes from the French government. And so we can see that French is trying to make amends on the continent, and by doing such gestures, they're hoping that the continent can warm up relations with them. Because if you look at the Sahel region, there in Mali and other places in West Africa, the French government has become very unpopular. In fact, the French military has been expelled from some of these countries.
Mm.
And so people are kind of working up to this and rejecting this neo-colonialism. But France wants to see if they can patch holes where they can. And I think this gesture to Cameroon is one of those attempts.
How has President Paul Biya and his government responded?
As expected, I think that the Paul Biya regime has they've not really made a big deal out of this. And so they have issued a wishy-washy statement in response to this. And the reason for that, it's because, you have the Anglo-Cameroonian and the Francophone Cameroonian regions that are split. And so we know that historically, the part that was ruled by the British received independence a year before the French government conceded to give up the French territory of Cameroon. And so the historical aspect of this also has informed the response from the Paul Biya regime. They don't seem to make it an issue per se, or to make it a talking point as the country goes to the elections.
And then, on that point of the country going to elections, does this acknowledgement and letter from President Macron have any bearing on those elections in terms of its timing and influence, if there will be, for them being peaceful?
I don't think so. I think that the French government and other Western powers are actually part of the problem there in Cameroon. And I think that they have collaborated and they have worked with the Paul Biya regime over 40 years in terms of diplomacy, in terms of economic assistance, in terms of many other things that they've done. So to issue this letter at 11th hour just before the elections, I don't think it has any bearing at all in terms of how the elections turn out. This is probably just one of those, like I said, it's one of those things that the French are doing because they want to save face. They've become unpopular in the region, they've become unpopular in West Africa, and no one wants anything to do with France. Therefore, an apology, a written letter to the president of Cameroon seems to be appropriate for them to, address historical grievances.
Okay, let's move to Chad now. There's been a sentencing there of former Prime Minister and opposition leader Sukse Masra for 20 years for inciting violence. What can you tell us there?
Sukse Masra is, to some people, he's more of a rising star. He's promising, he's in his 40s. He served as the country's prime minister from January to May of last year. And so during that time, he's accused of inciting violence, and where people lost lives. I think it was about 35 people that died in that conflict. This was a conflict between the Fulani headsman and also the Fulani headsman who actually come predominantly the regions that are close to the capital city and within the capital city. And they are the majority in terms of that population in those regions, in the south as well as in the capital city. And then this other group is actually a Christian group that is affiliated with Sukse Masra, and that Sukse Masra with this group seems to have a different thought of opinion on politics, on governance, and religion, of course. And so these two clashed when he was just about to leave office in May of last year when he was prime minister. And the government took advantage of that. The regime has actually charged him with inciting hate speech and violence and saying that he is behind these killings, where the Muslims, the Fulani headsman, rose up against the farmers who are Christians, and people lost their lives. So he has been sentenced to 20 years in prison for these crimes. He denies any involvement in this, and he actually cites political motivation for the reason why the regime is coming out after him.
As you say, he's denying the allegations against him, but he also plans to appeal the ruling, according to his defense lawyers. What chances does he have?
It seems that in my analysis, he doesn't think that he has any chance at all in being successful with his appeal. But he seems to be confident. He tells he's appealing to his supporters to stay calm. He's telling them not to be violent. He's telling them to trust the system and the courts. And he feels like he might be vindicted, that he's been implicated in some political witch hunt. But I think this is far-fetched. I think that the regime is ill-bent to make sure that they put him behind bars and also throw him into a political dustbin. He's actually very promising. He's belongs to a party called the Transformers Party, and he's very progressive in some of the things that he advocates for. But he does not come from the predominant and majority Muslim groups within the capital city and in other parts of the country. But still, he has huge influence and seems to be making waves.
Let's go to Equatorial Guinea now. That country has sent delegates to meet Israeli foreign minister, and Japan was also in that meeting. What is the aim of the meeting hosted by Foreign Minister Gidon Saar?
Yonsa is desperate, just like we can see all the cabinet ministers and the prime minister now, because the crimes in Gaza and what is happening there have reached out to the international community, and everyone can see through the lies and the manipulation and the deception. This is evident by what we are seeing in Europe. Most of the countries in Europe, including Canada and France and the UK, they've actually expressed that they are going to recognize the state of Palestine in September this year, which is next month when they go to the United Nations. This has made the Prime Minister of Israel and the Foreign Minister to go into a panic. And so this is what Gideon Saar is doing. He's trying to woo those countries that they can, bring them closer to them, and try to project a different narrative. This is nothing other than just sheer desperation on the part of the Israeli government.
Right. And then Prison Break, season 4 or season 5, I don't know. That drama series on television went on forever. I don't know what season we ended on. But this time, 50 prisoners escaping jail in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Do we know how?
What we know is that these prisoners were kept in prisons, actually two cells, that were built in 1937. These were built by the Belgium when they ruled the Congo. So you can imagine these are old structures. These are prisons that are not inhabitable, actually. And they were supposed to, if I'm not mistaken, I'm told they were supposed to hold about um, roughly 50 to 50 something people. But there were about 104 inmates in each of these two cells.
Hmm.
And so there was suffocating, there was no space for these prisoners. And for some reason, yes, they managed to pull a fast one. They did a prison break, and about 47, 50 of them have escaped. And the prison warder tried to fire gunshots to stop them from escaping, and that went on deaf ears. So successfully, they ran away. 50 of them are out, and we don't know what will happen to the others. But they broke the prison walls because they were just so overpopulated, overcrowded, and these are old structures.
What crimes that they committed? How dangerous do we know these inmates to be?
These so the prison is situated in the prison is called Idofa prison,
Mm-hmm.
and this is situated a few hundred kilometers from Kinshasa. So these are prisoners that are taken there, to isolate them from the capital and from the densely populated area. They could be dangerous prisoners, but we don't know for sure.
Mm.
I think that they are a mix of petty criminals as well as some of the dangerous criminals. But unfortunately, 50 of them have escaped, and the conditions of these prisons are not favorable at all.
Well, we'll leave it on that note today, Aaron. Thanks again for making time to give us much needed analysis on these important stories.
Thank you for having me. Have a good day, Asanda.
Thank you. You too. Aaron Ngambi is a geopolitical analyst who joins us on Thursdays here on Rise and Shine for an in-depth look at stories making headlines in the Central African region. 6:30 Central African time. Let's say good morning to Onele Nsinsi. She's got our news headlines.